Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Mike, you buying it? Brees this week? What do you think?
Well, I think we're on the way to recovery, and that's the good news. That I think sometime very soon that Drew will be out on the field. Now, the one thing I can't answer, and no one else can, neither can Drew, is you practiced a little bit yesterday, you practiced today. How well you feel Friday and Saturday? Because you are a 41-year-old cat, and you got 11 broken ribs, and you did have the punctured lung. Of how you feel after a couple of these, and also too, I think when most players have that type of injury, you want to sort of simulate a tackle or two, and how he reacts to it, because you want to see how well he responds once he gets hit, and not just during the game, but even before, of how well his body responds. So the good news is that back-to-back practices now, and that he's moving around and he's feeling less discomfort than we knew about a week ago. Is really good news for the Saints. They're not going anywhere without Drew.
Amen.
Bottom line, come January, you're not going anywhere without Drew Brees in the lineup. So now you fight it a little bit. And I had a long conversation with Randy Mueller, the former Saints GM, also was GM in Miami with Nick Saban and out with the Chargers. And he was like, man, that's such a difficult decision. Because you want him healthy for January. You'd like to get him a warm-up game or two. Do you play him here against Kansas City? And in a short week, you got to play him again against Minnesota on Christmas Day. Now, you do have a long wrap-up to finish it, but he's, as a management guy, I would think seriously about not doing it this weekend. But he's, again, his body's going to tell him if he can play or not. If it'd be up to Drew, he'd play. I think he'd have played last week if it had been up to him. But you can't let it up to the player. You got to see how his body responds. And I think the relationship between him and Sean is good enough that if there is some discomfort there, that Drew would tell him, hey, Coach, I still do have a little discomfort. And so, but the good news is he's back on track, so to speak. To be back in the lineup very soon. If it's this week against the Chiefs or if it's Friday against the Minnesota Vikings, we'll see. But, man, that's really good news for a football team. In this time of year, man, you start to count the injuries. Michael Thomas now, back-to-back days without practicing. But, a guy like Mike, he don't really need to practice. Are you good for Sunday? Get in there. The concern for me more is Nick Easton. And this is why, Matt. He's had now back-to-back concussions in 1 year, and that's concerning. That is concerning to me. That you've had those concussions now back-to-back. So we'll see what happens with Nick. Because listen, he has been one of the most underrated football players on this team for what he's been able to do. And we're seeing Cesar Ruiz really struggle at the guard position. Really struggle there at times. And, man, the Eagles, they had some big plays up against Teron Armstead, but they had plays up against Ruiz too. So, man, that is a concern for me as you reach toward the end of the year. That last year, if you remember when they played the Vikings sort of schemed to attack the Saints guards. They went after a heavy Larry Wolford. They went after the Saints guards, and man, they got a lot of pressure. They moved their ends inside where they were up against the guards, if you remember right in that football game. So they felt that was the weak spot. And so Nick Easton's health is a concern for mine, especially when you get concussions pretty quickly. And this is twice now in one season that, normally you don't return back pretty quickly from that.
No. He's on Twitter at Mike Detillier. Mike, we are going to preview fully Saints Chiefs, but it is worth mentioning what happened in Philly this past weekend. It was just, it's massive. A chance to clinch the division, maintain the 1 seed, and you lost to a 3-8-1 football team starting a rookie quarterback in his first career start. I mean, Mike, what were your big takeaways from what transpired Sunday?
Overconfidence. Okay, and you got people. Oh, they should never be down or overconfident. They just work 16 Sundays out the year. Let me count you 16 days at work and see how much you give 16 times in a row. Come on, don't look in the mirror. But it's quick to point that out. Wasn't Florida overconfident against LSU? Man, we got this. We watched the film. We got this. Come on, we got this. We don't need to take these guys seriously. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you're in a dogfight. And by the time the Saints figured it out, in the third quarter, hey, this is a lot tougher than I thought. You were getting beat, and you got beat up front in the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. The shocking part for me was I did 6 shows in Philly last week. Every one of them said the Saints will win by 10 points or more. Philly can't run the ball. Their offensive line is horrific. They can't protect the quarterback. They can't run block. They got age issues. They got injury issues. Some of the guys are just sort of going through the motions. They got nothing on the edges to get in the pitch and catch part of the game. Their secondary is horrible. Then they lose 2 starters during the game in the secondary. And the Saints still lost to a team that's really not very good. Mm. And you practice against a quarterback similar with Jalen Hurts when you go up against Taysom. You couldn't protect the edges. That was an attitude game for me, attitude-focused game, that you weren't really quite ready to play. Man, we got this. Philly? And sometimes the film kind of gets you a little bit overconfident, too. Now, as usual, they always got a certain portion of, who I blame on this? I blame the media. Y'all made them overconfident. My thing is, I ain't put on no helmet and shoulder pads in quite some time. It's the dude that look in that mirror, right? Okay? And Sean keeps saying about this, hey, don't eat the cheese. Be careful about these type of games. It has caught us in the past. And I say this every year. There's one game that's an El Stinko one every year. You saw it. That was the El Stinko game. You played a bad football team with a rookie quarterback, with offensive line issues that had not committed to running the football, and their secondary, they were rolling out guys that were second and third string up against the Saints, and they still couldn't win. Still, the Saints couldn't figure out a way to win. They had a shot at it, which is unbelievable. Had they recovered the onside kick, that you could have actually put that game into overtime. I mean, the Eagles were the better team that Sunday. You play them 10 more times, the Saints win. But again, it goes to show you that adage of any given Sunday.
Yeah.
These guys getting paid too. They got a little bit of pride in them. And they see this, man, we're not playing well. And we got to show some pride. And I give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit. He didn't do anything that I hadn't seen him do at Alabama and Oklahoma. How poised was that young man? Hey, he hadn't played in a big, in a game as a professional like this, but man, okay, yeah, I played in some pretty big games in college that meant something. He was poised as could be. Okay, you run that way, I'll take off this way. And he put on a show. He was very impressive to me. Now, again, can you sustain that? I don't think he's good enough as a pocket passer to sustain it. And after you get a couple weeks of film like they have with Taysom Hill, now they figured out to take things away from you. And Taysom wasn't Taysom in that game. Almost like he just hung around in the pocket, held on to the football too long. Come on, you can't be Drew Brees. You got to be Taysom Hill.
Mike, let's talk. There's so much ground we have to cover with LSU. The improbability of the Florida win. The most you've ever seen with an LSU team? I mean, the only thing that seems to rival would be the 93 Alabama game.
Yeah, and I'm glad the point spread was 24. But I didn't need it. But I was glad. It enticed me to put down a nickel or two.
I never do, Mike. Not on LSU. I can't do it. Can't do it.
As I told you last week, I knew Florida would look ahead. Come on, it's human nature. Okay, you've seen this film on LSU's defense, and you going up again with Kyle Trask, those receivers. Now you didn't know about Pitts until late, but I get why they pulled him. To be honest with you, if he's not 100%, and you were thinking, man, we were playing the SEC championship game, and he's talented. Man, goodness, I told this to Charlie in the pregame that as far as the receiver's concerned, just as a pass catcher, he's the best pass-catching tight end I've seen since Tony Gonzalez. Now, that's some years between Tony and him.
Are you talking about Tony at Cal or Tony in the NFL?
I'm talking about Tony at Cal.
Got it.
And so there's a few years between that. Ditka always had told me that on draft day. No, we can't pick Gonzalez. He's nothing more than a receiver. Yeah, a Hall of Fame one. Oh, Mike, he was a talent evaluator, brother. But whatever. You think back, it's a human nature thing. And again, I go back to it's an attitude game, and LSU got nothing to lose. And I give the kids a lot of credit that that part about change is happening, and I think you saw a little bit of the freshmen and sophomores grow up. I'm tired of getting my butts kicked. I'm really tired of it. And they played hard, and they did give up some big plays and stuff. And the offense at least ran the football, which I think protected Max. You saw what the big advantage with Max is that he's got some movement skills and he can get around in the pocket pretty well and run. It wasn't perfect, but it was a W. I've never seen a game decided by a shoe. Never in my lifetime. Now, my thing about it is you should have pulled off the other one. At least you got a pair. At least you got a set. One of them don't do you no good. And then the kicking game came through for you.
Yep.
A kid came in there, 57 yards. I really didn't. You know how I noticed the reaction? If you look good, you can actually see Gordy Rush's reaction.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see the ball, I saw Gordy's reaction more than anything. But I never saw it. When it cleared, and I didn't see the miss either until you started to see everybody in the stand sort of lean. Now, when they start that lean a little bit, something's wrong. So, listen, that was a big win for the guys. Now let's see how well they handle it. How well they handle a little bit of, good things happen to you. Can they piece it together against an Ole Miss football team which is explosive offensively? Now, they're not real good on the defensive side of the ball. They give up a lot of yardage, give up touchdowns. That's the area where Lane, in talking to him this offseason, he was like, I asked him about rebuilding, and he had his glasses on. He just pulled them down and looked at me and said, rebuild? I was like, yeah. No, he knew he could score points. And Matt Corral's a gunslinger. Man, that ball comes out sort of funky, a little bit like Patrick Mahomes a little bit. It comes out a lot of different ways. But boy, he can get it there. They have an explosive receiver in Elijah. And that tight end is a big target guy. They're going to got some seniors up front along the offensive line. So it's quite a challenge defensively for LSU because of what Ole Miss, and the two guys know one another. I mean, Lane knows Ed. Ed knows, Lane. And so that's certainly, if they were both playing for something, that'd be a huge story about the connection between the two of them. I remember it was a New Year's Eve. Ed was in Florida with both Kiffins, with both Lane and Monty. He was defensive line coach at the Saints at the time. And I had texted him, hey, what's happening? And he texted me back, headed to UT. So, he goes to UT. They spend 1 year there, then they go to Southern Cal, and then the events with Lane getting fired and Ed taking over. And so, man, there's a lot of connections. And he would have been the offensive coordinator here year one with Ed had he not gotten a head coaching job. So I want to see the attitude and how they handle a little bit of success now, because I think that is part of maturing as a young team. How well you handle that success. I didn't think they handled the success very well in the offseason across the board. How well you handle it now, you get a big win on the road, and now you're playing, a team that you can put some points up against. Can you stop them? Because Lane is going to pull out every trick in the book, partner. I'm just telling you. He sees all this miscommunication stuff and crossing patterns and sort of semi-picks and everything else. He's going to do the exact same thing. And so I don't want to tell you to gamble, but the over is a nice play.
Oh, Mike. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the line. I mean, LSU opened a small favorite. It's Ole Miss is almost a 3-point favorite now. It's shifted completely.
Yeah, and that did not surprise. I thought they had the wrong favorite from the start. I thought Ole Miss would have been a favorite. They've been a more consistent team than LSU all season long. But again, man, for odds makers, how difficult is this today? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Because your job is to make money for the casino. It's not to make money for guys like me and you and anybody else who maybe got a nickel or a dime on a game. No, their job is to make sure the casino comes out ahead. When they put LSU as a favorite, that surprised me, and I knew there would be heavy money on Ole Miss. And in fact, I actually said Monday, I thought Ole Miss should have been a 3.5-point favorite. What is it today?
2.5. I mean, Mike D, a 4-point swing. That just don't happen much, man.
Well, that happens because of money, and not guys that put down $50 and $100. I'm talking about major money swings that point spread, and it's difficult to move a game a point. You're talking about 4 points. So I just think here that people in the know feel as though Lane's team has been more consistent, that they're a little bit more mature team, and they feel as though Lane, knowing that defense, will have some success up against it. And can you argue that at this point? You can't. And so it's an interesting football game. It opened up LSU favorite. I was surprised. Now it swung back. That didn't surprise me either. And I've always felt this type game ends up you winning it or losing it on special teams. Some big play on special teams. If it's a run back, if it's a block kick, if it's a field goal, that's going to be the deciding point here, where I think both defenses are going to give up big plays. Let's see how well Max handles game 2 now, and in his consistency as a quarterback and his ability to put pressure on a defense that you can't stack the line, because if you make the right blocks and he's got an opening, Max can scoot, man. Max got some running skills. He ain't like his pop on that part. He can run. And so that opens up a lot of different things. And I'm also interested in the attitude because, okay, you notice the final game of the year, how motivated are each of the two teams at this point?
Yeah.
How nobody can guess that of how you in that locker room. And, okay, you've just won a huge game on the road, and how well you handle that success as a young football team. And for Ole Miss, it's how well Lane can handle some of the distractions that has happened in that time off, because that's not easy, too, man. It's challenging. That's why I'll say this again. Greatest head coaching job I've ever seen, and that's Nick Saban. And what he's been able to do, focus-wise, get his team ready each and every week. Yeah, somebody might get 7 points on them quick, and then they hit you with that tsunami, dude, and you like a boxer. You cannot get your hands up fast enough for the next punch, and he just keep punching and wailing away at you. And I think Florida's in a lot of trouble. I think because, man, I want to see their attitude when they play Alabama. You just got you got beat up against LSU. Now you got to play a team that man, they can hit you with 28 points in the first quarter. That's how good they are. How they react to that. And I think one thing LSU did was expose something we've talked about. And I talked about it in the pregame with Charlie too. Is that with Kyle Trask, you can see he's built to play quarterback. He's a big, tall kid, strong arm. Man, in that little square area, boy, he can set up and he can wing it downfield. He's accurate with the short throws. He can throw the deep ball. One thing he can't get away from, pressure.
That's true.
You saw he was cornered Once LSU got a little pressure and he had to move, man, just think, that's a college team. Wait till you get to the pros. They're coming at you a lot quicker than that. That would be something I'd have to think long about picking him, knowing he doesn't have great mobility skills. He's a box quarterback. Yeah, he plays in a pro-style system. But if you can't move in the NFL, you're in trouble, big trouble. So I think LSU exposed that a little bit more than I think maybe anybody thought they would. And you don't think Nick and Golding and all are going to take full advantage of it.
Saints Chiefs on Sunday. Mike, I really think that the Saints, especially if Drew isn't going to play, it's just going to be a struggle offensively. So the question is going to be, can the Saints defense find a way to slow the Kansas City offense? So let's start there. How, Mike? How do the Saints try to slow this defense or this offense?
I think the key player here is Travis Kelce. He's a nightmare mismatch. You cannot put a safety and a linebacker one-on-one on with him. He's going to beat that. Now, people say, oh, well, do what the Patriots did. They put Stephon Gilmore. Okay, I'm going to put Lattimore on Kelce. And then what's going to happen with Tyreek? Now, Patrick Robinson was healthy. That's a different situation. I got a guy that can maybe match up with Kelce. So you're going to have to either double-team him or bracket him. Because he's really a big receiver playing tight end. He's a good getting away type blocker, and he does kind of tark off the edge a little bit on the running plays. But athletically, there aren't a lot of tight ends like him that I've seen in a long time. His ability to stretch the field, make a catch, and then take off with it afterwards. He scares me. He keeps me up more than anything. I understand what Tyreek Hill brings to the table. And that he can blow the top off coverage. The one thing he does very well is he's a very aggressive guy going for the football. For a small receiver, he ain't a really big dude. And he goes up and he will fight you for the football in a crowd. And then certainly the reverse plays and the jet sweeps and stuff like that. But Kelce's the nightmare for me because you're going to have to kind of do things a little bit differently. He's not your regular tight end. And he's the guy that keeps me more uneasy at night than anybody else. Their running game has been okay. It's been good, really good at times, and at other times it's been rather average. The thing with in watching them, and even people out in Kansas City will say it's disturbing, is how their defense sort of will fall asleep in the second half of games with a lead and give teams an opportunity to come back. We saw it a few weeks back against the Raiders that, man, Las Vegas makes that big run late, and Carr was really hot. And they get him in for a score. The only thing bad is they left too much tick, tick, tick on the clock. Mm-hmm. And Mahomes comes back and beat them. Okay, they get a big, huge lead against the Dolphins. And, man, bang, bang. The Dolphins are right back in it. Man, you're putting your hand in the piranha water each week doing that. You're just playing. Eventually, you're going to get bit. Somebody's going to catch you doing that defensively. And I give Andy a lot of credit for what he's done this year. Is they did lose one game, but keeping his team focused after a Super Bowl win and keeping them revved up each week. It is difficult, man. That's hard because you've won the prize now. And their deal is just get us into the play. We get in the playoffs, we're going to beat everybody. But you got to win games in the regular season to do that. How he's been able to do it and keep this team rolling. Mahomes is the best player in pro football. It's not even debatable. He's the best player in the game. The thing that makes him real strange to watch is the ball never comes out the same way twice. One time it's over the top, next time it's by the ear, next time it's by the shoulder, next time it's sidearm, then one time you'll see him underhanded. I mean, he throws it all kind of different ways. So if you're a defensive player, you're like, oh, I got him covered. Oh, how did he get that ball there? Mm-hmm. He just finds a little avenue. And I think as the days get colder, and not that that'll make a difference this weekend, but I think as the days get colder, watch what Andy has done in Philly and also Kansas City. He's become more of a run-oriented coach. He wants to kind of pound you. And now he's got that twosome, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And now Le'Veon Bell is not the player he was in Pitt, but certainly, man, he's still a force. And he's really good coming out the backfield, just like Clyde is. So, and they've done it, but their defense, they've had some shaky moments. And the one thing with Sean, he knows Steve Spagnuolo very well, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs.
Sure.
He hired Steve in the year he was suspended, but he had known him for years. They know one another very well, the tendencies on what Spags is going to throw at him defensively. So it's an interesting matchup. And the one thing we have seen from the Saints under Peyton, in a humiliating game, don't they bounce back the next week?
Yeah.
In games I think Sean was humiliated because he lost to Doug Peterson on the team. And him and Doug are partners. They play golf together and everything else. And he knew that the Eagles weren't a really good football team, okay? And you lost that game, and you just got beat. Bottom line, there's nothing you can do about it. You got to move on. You can't worry about what happened against the Eagles. You got to move on with it. But in games like this, that all the spotlight's on him and on that football team, and certainly there'll be a lot of talk of what happens with Drew Brees, the real matchup is Andy Reid versus Sean Payton. The chess match between those two head coaches who got great respect for one another, but Sean was humiliated last week up against his buddy, Doug Peterson. And that set, normally the Saints play pretty well the next week.
Mike, by the way, you're right. Last year against the Falcons, when the Saints had that, as you would put it, El Stinko, they bounced back a week later and blew out Tampa 34-17. So they typically do respond well. How did the Saints score in this game, Mike?
Man, the one thing with the Chiefs, they've had difficulties getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, especially in the second half. They've done okay in the first half, but they've had difficulties. My thing is, you were beating up teams running the football. You got to go back to that. You got to go back to the power rushing attack. If Taysom's in the lineup, you got to do what Taysom does best. You can't try to force him to be Drew Brees. He is Taysom Hill. Okay, he ain't going to throw the football as good as, and don't give me this quarterback rating of so-and-so and so-and-so. All I know is the eyeball test tells me he had 4 or 5 really easy throws, and he misfired. He hung on to the ball forever trying to get rid of it. And if I told you before the game, Matt, there's going to be one quarterback that takes 5 sacks and the other one takes 0. You'd have said, man, I think Hurts as the rookie is going to get the 5 sacks.
Yep.
Come on. You took 5 sacks as a quarterback with the athletic skills you got? That tells you 2 things. One, he was hanging in a pocket way too long. And secondly, your offensive line, they got the stew kicked out of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by Philly's front, which is really good. It's a better front than what the Chiefs got. That's all I know. Man, that unit, they bring it each and every game. Now, their secondary, the Chiefs got a better secondary than what the Eagles do, what I think 31 other teams probably do. But it's one of those type of games where, you know what, you got to hope for a turnover or 2. You got to win the special teams part of the game. I don't know what's happened with Will Lutz, if it's an injury or if he's in a little bit of a funk as a kicker, which we all see at times. We got people, you got to get rid of him. Get rid of him. He's an 87% kicker. This team has had a revolving door of kickers until Will got here.
Yep.
So what's happened with him, you got to straighten out. And has the return game been the same since Deontay?
Nope.
It's not been the same. And even Marquez. I mean, Marquez
that's been a revolving door too, Mike. You're right, with Callaway. And
so you cannot lose the special teams part of the game against the Chiefs. So I think the power running game, play a little keep away, try to keep it low scoring, because if Drew's not in that game and you get into a game where they're scoring over 30 points, man, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You're in trouble. And again, not knowing the full health of Michael Thomas, who's missed back-to-back practices. But again, we've seen that with other players. Sadly, everything feels good today. I'm ready to go. So hopefully he can play. And I do think the tight ends have been a problem for the Chiefs to match up against. That's where Jared Cook and Adam Troutman got to come through big this week because if you watch the Chiefs, Darren Waller, and again they don't have nobody like that, but he was high school open. He wasn't open. He was open like a high school player. There wasn't nobody within 5 or 6 yards of him. I could have made a couple of them throws, like Carr made to him. I mean, he is wide open. That there's no one contesting that. That tells me that that's where you got to kind of hit on it, and you got to get Alvin Kamara and Murray much more involved in the offense. I just think that for whatever reason, that game plan of keeping him in the pocket was not good. That's just not what Taysom can do well. And so it is what it is. But you know one thing, if you score late to take the lead, you better hope them TikToks ain't too many.
Mike D, before we get to questions and picks, Elijah Moore, the talented wide receiver from Ole Miss, has just released he's opted out. He's not going to play this weekend, and he's going to instead start preparing for the NFL draft. So, Mike, how significant for Ole Miss not to have this chess piece on the board?
No, he's the go-to guy. He's the guy Matt Corral trusts the most. And Matt's admitted that. My first look is toward him. That's a huge loss. It doesn't surprise me, in today's world.
Yeah.
Ole Miss isn't playing for anything. So, hey, I see where my draft stock is, and, people might like it, don't like it, whatever. It's a business decision. It's purely a business decision he made, and we've seen it here at LSU, and you see it all over the country. And Matt, it's not going to get any better.
Agreed.
You're going to see stuff like this is going to happen now until your last breath. I hate to put it that way, but it's true. The world sort of has changed, and I think players understanding that, I'm playing in a game, we're not going anywhere, I'm out. I'm going to make a business. I don't want to get hurt. The only way I can lose my draft stock is if I get hurt. Now, I think for the teams playing in the playoff situation, they're not going to lose those type players. But come on, for an Ole Miss, you understand why Elijah, took the tag out.
Mike, what do you think? Saturday, LSU, Ole Miss, how's it go?
Man, this is a tough pick, but I'm going to go this way with it. I think LSU wins this 24-23.
Oh, wow, lower scoring, man. What about Saints Chiefs?
Man, this is even tougher for me because I went back and forth with this. I'm going to go 27-24, Chiefs.
Okay.
But if Drew plays, then that might be a different story. But, I think the Saints keep it close. I think they keep it within range. And the Chiefs' defense is going to give up plays offensively to the Saints. You got to take advantage of it. I think both these games are going to be razor close.
Billy Mathern on Twitter asks Mike, with the potential of not having Brees and Winston on the roster next season, should Loomis and the Saints make a phone call to Andrew Luck just to see if there's interest?
No, Andrew's not coming back and play. Yeah, he's already made that known. I think that phone call has been made a few times by different teams, and you would have to give him up compensation. They still hold his rights, but Andrew's not coming back and play.
Matt Plavados has asked Mike, will Mason Smith play defensive tackle or defensive end at LSU?
No, he's going to play defensive tackle. He's always been an interior player. Now, he has lost a lot of weight because we were teasing one another because, man, during the summer, he was like early summer. He was like 327 pounds. And I'm saying, man, stand next to me when we take that picture because it makes me look skinny. Don't make me look taller, but it makes me look skinny.
Right.
And he's like, next time you see me, I'm going to have all that weight off. He lost over 40 pounds. And he was on the keto diet. Wow. And, man, he really worked on him. And, when you're young, man, that weight goes on and off pretty quick. And he's the part. But he's going to play interior defensive tackle. He's looking forward. He told me yesterday in the interview that really looking forward to playing next to Jaqueline Roy and Guillory and those guys, and he's going to try to help recruit a couple other guys to LSU.
So hopefully some big ones. Kevin Dunn says, ask Mike, Malik Neighbors' thoughts, the wide receiver that flipped.
When they offered him a month and a half ago, I was like, okay, what's going on here? So you must have got an inkling, somebody was maybe looking to break out of Dodge. So, because it seemed strange. You had commitments already, and then it looked as though, okay, you're going after neighbors too. So, the one thing I do give Ed, he's sort of got a good pulse on that kind of what's going on. But he's a guy that can run, and he physically needs to get stronger. He is going to need to improve as a route runner, but, man, he is really confident catching the ball with his hands out front, and he's got some giddy-up after the step. So he's a really talented receiver. I think once he gets in the weight room and physically gets stronger, you're going to have yourself something here with neighbors. He's really talented.
Donald Spear says, ask Mike, do you think Derek Stingley plays this weekend? If so, how close to 100%?
I don't know about 100%, but he plays this weekend.
Yeah. Let's see. Ask Mike, can Mason Smith talk to Tristan Lee to come to LSU?
Well, I knew he's talking to him. He didn't already admitted it.
I know.
So on that particular part. No, he laughed with me yesterday because he was like, a little over a month ago, I heard you say something about LSU's going to get a second running back. And he said, the guy told you, interesting. And, man, I get all kind of, silly stuff. They send me about, man, I've been looking at Rivals and 247. LSU just signing one running back. I don't know where you get your information from. And I told this story a couple of weeks back that, where are you getting your information from? Hey, come on. We're not splitting the atom here. But when Goodwin signed yesterday, I was as happy. Now, I knew Mason was going to sign with LSU, but I was really happy that Goodwin signed because it got me off the hook with a guy that, again, man, I'm telling you, I don't know where you get your information from. Okay, well, good enough. Just like Matt, if I would collected as much money as people wanted to bet me that Mason Smith was going to Alabama, I would never have to do another show the rest of my life.
He is Mike Detillier, and we'll keep doing this one on Thursdays. SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com, Saints News Network on Twitter at Mike Detillier. You're the best, Mike D. Thanks so much, man. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you, Matthew.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.